Welcome to Alyvix. This video tutorial presents a complete example of building and running a test case for the General Ledger in Dynamics AX. In this video, we'll see what a complete visual monitoring run of Dynamics AX looks like. Then we'll see how to construct the test case that drives that run, filtering purchase orders and drilling down for details in the General Ledger. When you want to monitor AX performance over time, Alyvix Robot will run test cases that you've created using Alyvix Editor. This particular test case starts AX and then begins to execute a series of fixed steps that will navigate through Dynamics AX and interact with its buttons and text fields. Each interaction can be measured to make sure it runs within a specific time limit, because if Alyvix sees slow performance, then real users are also going to see that slow performance. To start off, our test case first needs to launch AX, so let's build a step that shows Alyvix how to find the AX desktop shortcut and launch it. You want to make sure that the interface is a standard size, so you would typically maximize the window. We've already shown this in previous videos, so we'll skip it here. For each new step, we tell Alyvix Robot how to measure it and create a script showing Alyvix which order the steps go in. One of the most important tasks is navigating to the particular interface you want to monitor. Dynamics AX gives you two ways: clicking on a section icon and selecting an interface from the index, or directly typing in the interface's path into the address bar. This step uses the setPoint parameter to move the click point from the center of a selection to a point of your choice relative to that center point. It then sets the path as a string to insert at the interface element at that point. We can see over and over a pattern that's typical when using Alyvix Editor. You first create a screen grab, then identify important areas on the screen, either as anchors or as screen elements to interact with. Then add any mouse and keyboard input for those interactions. Tell Alyvix what the name of this step is, how to measure the results, and finally give it a quick test to make sure it all works. Buttons and text fields can float depending on factors like window resizing and even font size. Alyvix uses groups, distinguished by the color of the crosshairs and selection boxes, to separate components in terms of their relative position. Here we use two groups to separate the panel anchor in red from the filtering controls in green. In general, it's best practice to use a separate group for window controls, because they can move when the window changes size. This next step tests the filtering controls in the General Ledger. Again, we use two groups, one for the anchor and one for the filtering controls themselves. Since the previous step opened the drop-down filter menu, in this step we can again use the setPoint action to choose the name key, which will always be in the second row. Now we'll select the filter field so we can type in our own filtering expression to restrict the results to those with the word purchases in the name field, and then enter the special enter key that activates it. When this step runs, it selects the key, enters our filtering expression, initiates it, and then shows the filtered results in the table at the bottom. Once our table is filtered, we can go into the details. Again, we use a second group, this time because the results are shown in a table, and the columns could be resized or reordered. We again use the setPoint action to indicate which record we want to examine more closely, and click on it, which will launch a pop-up window with the record details. Adding this step to the script and running just this step will set up the interface for the next one. In Dynamics AX, the mouse isn't the only way you can interact with the interface. You can also direct keyboard input to the active window or component using the full range of special characters, including with the Control, Alt, and Windows keys. When the window opened, it left the lowest row selected. We can use the up arrow keys to move that selection with one component, and then use another component, such as the General tab, to request more details about that particular row. After setting our parameters and running this step, Dynamics AX will open the details we requested in the same window. We're almost through examining the details of this record. In this step, we're half checking that the previous step worked properly, and half setting up the final check of this test case. This check is to make sure that the type of record actually is a purchase order, and then launch the transaction origin action in its own window. Since this step includes a check, we leave the measure flag set so we can see the timing results for this step at the end of Robot's complete run. Our last step is to check that the Details window has the expected data. Again, we need to use a second group, since the table columns to the right may be in a different position relative to the anchor. Once we've checked the final window is correct, we can also save some time by closing it right away, double-clicking on the anchor icon. We set a high timeout and leave the measure box checked, since this is the final result, and we definitely want to see how long this step took. A last run makes sure this step is working. Once the test case finishes, it's important to clean up any resources we used, since we'll likely use Robot to run the test case every few minutes. The fail script runs if any step in the main script or a section did not match, and the break flag was set. Here, it closes any opened AX windows before continuing to the exit script. The exit script runs automatically when the main script concludes, whether it finishes successfully or not. Here, it closes the window left open and then closes Dynamic AX. In this video, we looked at how to create a full test case in Alyvix that monitors the general ledger functionality of Dynamics AX, stepping through the creation of a filter using groups, selecting a filter result, and viewing its expanded details. Thanks for watching this Alyvix video tutorial. Be sure to check out the Alyvix website, blog, and user guide at these links.